In the late 15th century, the world as known to Europeans was a tapestry of continents stitched together by treacherous trade routes, with the riches of the East tantalizingly out of reach. It was a world ripe for disruption, waiting for a bold idea. Into this era stepped Christopher Columbus, a Genoese mariner with a conviction as vast as the uncharted ocean itself. He proposed a daring, almost heretical plan to reach the East by sailing west. He believed a direct route across the Atlantic was not only possible but would be faster and more profitable than the perilous overland Silk Road or the long voyage around Africa. He took his audacious proposal to the royal courts of Europe, first to King John II of Portugal, who dismissed the idea as fanciful. Undeterred, Columbus turned to Spain, where after years of persistence, he finally captured the imagination of Queen Isabella I of Castile. Convinced by the potential for wealth and prestige, she agreed to finance his expedition, handing him a royal charter that granted him the title Admiral of the Ocean Sea and the authority to claim new lands for the Spanish crown. On August 3, 1492, three small ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the flagship, the Santa Maria, departed from the port of Palos, Spain, their sails billowing with the winds of ambition. The journey into the unknown was long and fraught with anxiety. As weeks turned into months on the seemingly endless expanse of the Atlantic, the crew grew restless and fearful, their morale sinking with each passing sunset. Doubts about Columbus's calculations festered, and the threat of mutiny loomed. But on the morning of October 12, 1492, a cry of "Tierra! Tierra!" erupted from the crow's nest of the Pinta. A lookout had spotted a faint shoreline on the horizon. Columbus and his men had reached land, making their first landfall on an island in what is now the Bahamas, which he named San Salvador. Believing he had arrived in the East Indies, he planted the Spanish flag on the beach, unknowingly claiming a "new world" for Europe. The expedition explored the coasts of Cuba and Hispaniola, but the voyage was not without disaster. On Christmas Eve, the Santa Maria ran aground and was shipwrecked, forcing Columbus to leave behind a group of men and marking the beginning of a complex and often brutal encounter between two worlds. The success of his first voyage transformed Columbus from a determined supplicant into a celebrated hero. He returned to Spain to a hero's welcome, and the scale of his subsequent expeditions grew exponentially. His second voyage in 1493 was a massive colonial enterprise, comprising 17 ships and over 1,000 men, with the clear objective of establishing permanent settlements and exploiting the resources of the newly discovered lands. This fleet charted the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica, cementing Spain's foothold in the Caribbean. However, this expansion brought immense trouble. The colonies were mismanaged, and the relationship with the indigenous Taíno people quickly deteriorated into violence and enslavement. On his third voyage in 1498, Columbus became the first European to set foot on the mainland of South America, near modern-day Venezuela. Yet his star was falling. Reports of his tyrannical rule and the chaotic state of the Hispaniola colony reached Spain. In a dramatic turn of events, a royal commissioner was sent to investigate, and in 1500, Columbus was arrested, stripped of his governorship, and sent back to Spain in chains, his reputation irrevocably tarnished. Despite the humiliation, Columbus was granted one final expedition. His fourth voyage from 1502 to 1504 was his most perilous. He set out to find a strait to the Indian Ocean, but instead encountered a ferocious hurricane that battered his fleet. With his ships worm-eaten and leaking, he and his crew became shipwrecked on the coast of Jamaica, where they were stranded for a year, gaunt and desperate until they were finally rescued. Columbus returned to Spain for the last time in 1504, a weary and disillusioned man. He died 2 years later, still believing he had reached the outskirts of Asia. His voyages fundamentally and permanently altered the course of human history, connecting two hemispheres and initiating the Columbian Exchange, a vast transfer of plants, animals, culture, and disease. Yet this legacy is profoundly controversial. While his navigational achievements were monumental, They also unleashed a wave of conquest, colonization, and demographic catastrophe for the indigenous peoples of the Americas, a legacy of suffering and exploitation that complicates the figure of the determined admiral who sailed west to find a new way east.